Welcome back, everyone. I hope you all have visited our expo booths. Let's quickly hop onto our next fireside chat of the day on the topic Building Resilient Digital Transformation with Open Source, for which I would like to welcome Ms. Rashi Aditi Ghosh, Assistant Editor, the Banking and Finance Post magazine Elets Technomedia, who will be moderating the session. Along with her, we have with us Mr. Mangesh Surve, Director Solutions Specialist, Emerging Technology, Red Hat India, NSA. Also, we have with us Mr. Shiv Kumar Bhasin, Group Chief Technology Officer and Operation Officer, National Stock Exchange of India. A very warm welcome to you all. Now, I would like to hand over the session to Ms. Rashi Aditi Ghosh. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Pratishtha. So here we are, and I welcome you all to the fireside chat that we will be doing on the topic building resilient digital transformation with open source. And today we have with us in the panel Mr. Shiv Kumar Basin. He's the Group Chief Technology Officer and Operations Officer, National Stock Exchange of India Limited, Mr. Mangesh Surve, Director, Solution Specialist, Emerging Technology, Red Hat India, and SA. So prior to beginning this fireside chat, I would like to take you to the brief pertaining to our discussion today that we would be talking on. As we all know that an Indian BFSI sector is currently undergoing a significant transition, and as business leaders and technology leaders, technology heads are teaming up and preparing for the next major phase of digital transformation, and a bigger part of it has been contributed due to the COVID outbreak and the ongoing challenges. So the challenges they face are significant when we talk about in context to a competitive market where rapid action and response is imperative, and financial institutions must upgrade themselves technologically so that they can expand their digitization of both front and back ends for their operations. So today, this discussion will encircle around these points, and we will talk about how digital transformation with open source can help organizations in expanding ahead. So, the first question for today's fireside chat is did the pandemic redefine the concept of digital transformation for financial institutions? Mr. Survey, would you like to answer this for us?
Sure. So, I mean, if you just go back in time and look at the first wave, I think everything that came in our house, we sanitized, right? So forget about touching money, right? People used to kind of do a lot of transactions on UPI wallets and all those things. Now, what's the impact of that? The impact of that definitely is, a lot of pressure on the financial organization to kind of, cater to that huge demand or huge, workload or huge volume that they have to deal with, the huge scale that they have to deal with. And, what could be a simple way to kind of, meet that requirement? And I think that kind of accelerated digital transformation. I mean, digital transformation is always there. I mean, none of the financial institutions were away from it. The intent of reducing transaction cost, the intent of doing a far more digital outreach, scalability with digital economy, that always was there. But because of pandemic, it kind of just kind of it was overwhelmed by the volumes. And what we've seen is many of our customers embarked onto innovative ways. So how about reducing the workload on the core system? How about adopting a microservices based architecture? How about removing some of the business functionality out into a periphery system and kind of reduce the workload on the core system? So those are various other things that folks tried. And since I started with UPI as an example, there are many customers of ours who segregated the workload. Balance inquiry, okay, doesn't need to be kind of bombarding the core system. Maybe kind of let's kind of create a separate module for it and leverage all the open source and cloud native technologies which could probably help it run in a automatic way, but be able to scale at the same time, not away from the core system, tightly integrated into core system. So definitely the simple answer, yes, pandemic definitely kind of accelerated the digital transformation big time.
So, thank you for highlighting that point. Yes, of course, when we talk about adversities, it's good to talk about the positive points also. So, and digital transformation is something that has, despite the adversities and challenges that we are undergoing, that's unmatchable. We have never faced something like that. But yes, so moving ahead, I would like to know from Mr. Basil, did the pandemic redefine, we spoke about how the pandemic redefined it. So what are your views on open source software, and how do you think that its foundation of transformational technologies like cloud computing, artificial intelligence, and industrial IoT? What would be your take on, how did the pandemic redefine digital transformation for financial institutions?
And see, financial services industry, really got much more disrupted due to pandemic. One, quickly migrating to the remote working model and having a digital collaboration among the teams was one of the foundational area, which normally a lot of organizations who are based out of India, they have never been used to that model of operating, and and especially the financial services, always due to sensitivity and risk appetite, having a most least risk averse culture. They all were fueling that everyone has to be on premise, on the same campus or under the same roof to discuss many things. So it became a during the pandemic time period a very islandish kind of a culture, where if you have 300K employees, so all of them will be working remotely. So imagine in such a such kind of a siloed environment, how to tie them together and give a same feel of working in a same office under same roof, or same work desk, and same sharing the same whiteboard in a lot of large meetings. So all that have really the operating model and the perception about of lot of supervisors have changed, that how people can be productive or unproductive while working remotely. So that has really changed the way across the industry, not only in the financial services. And Financial services, I think, like any other sector, is going to get highly advantaged because of this, where they will be able to hire very kind of a diverse skill set, which was earlier not possible, because now they know the remote working model is really a success. Uh, then moving on to in the technology areas, there have been a similar when the people moved their development shops on the cloud, and then naturally the open sources were some of the major drivers for quickly getting them to set up their development environment, setting up their CI/CD environments onto the cloud. And Apart from the large enterprises who prefer to have a supported model, uh, but really small to medium enterprises and all, it has really worked very well for them to bring the digital kind of a disruption for in their day-to-day culture, in their working environments, using open source. And Open source have been, I think, have been anyway getting a lot of support from the every strata, every size of the organization, that it depends again what is the maturity cycle where you are, like whether you are at inception stage, a small enterprise and small engineering firm, or you are a large enterprise who have built a open source service center or center of excellence for open sources, and they have built some teams who are supporting the open sources, wrapping the open source frameworks to their local branding, and then getting them utilized. So definitely, it depends on the maturity and how people have been using. That has not changed, even in the cloud as well. Rather, it has accelerated adoption, accelerated the, how to quickly get, people moving. Uh, Till if I have got a, 100 licenses open source, but if I have to get to 150, or sorry, 1,000 licenses for open source, I might have to go to support model. So people, but still to, kick off their programs and projects on a digital way, it has really helped to accelerate their journey towards the digital. And further, various digital transformations are happening based on the open source Kubernetes frameworks for using microservices. These are the future systems for having a higher scalability. As you see that various mobile apps, be it is a Arogya Setu or various other mobile apps, but nowadays people are using for conducting the COVID tests, as using home kits and all. So all these apps and some of these, who are thriving, they are all based on open source, and they have been very, very quickly got set up and created. So really, I think open source has accelerated, some of these use cases and journeys, and it's going to further fuel them.
Thank you so much for highlighting that point, Mr. Basin, because we all used to think that these big terms are only, limited to the leaders. You brought it down to how Arogya Setu is also associated with open source. So, underlining the significance of open source further, I would like to know from Mr. Mangesh, what is the role of open source in modern application development? What do you want to add from your end?
Sure. So, I think open source has a very critical role in modern application development. So you look at today the genesis of hyperscalers. Genesis of hyperscalers is open source, and you look at the majority of AIML libraries that are getting downloaded world over. You would figure out that it's all open source. Look at IoT, wherein industries are coming together, you know, uh, as well as sensor manufacturers, edge computing companies, all come together and kind of work together to build a solution on open source. So I think it is pervasive. It is almost pick up any use case, and for you to kind of architect a solution, there is an open source option available. Having said that, I think from an app modernization point of view, today, if you have if you have a requirement wherein, and it is right, in a cloud native world, there is a requirement that I be able to kind of deploy code very quickly. And when you talk of scales, sometimes the scale is like 250 times or 2500 times faster than my earlier conventional way of deploying code. Or if there is a ideation that is there, that ideation to code, there also 250x times improvement is what is expected. Recovery time from failure, 7x kind of improvement is needed. So almost everywhere, open source plays a role. Look at all the disruptors out into the market. Okay, and commonly known, I'll just take commonly known disruptors, not affinity to any one of them, but Netflix, Uber, what are their architectures? Their architectures are purely based on open source cloud native architecture, and these are all microservice based architectures. So that thing is coming to enterprises today. Enterprises are talking to us that hey, you as a proponent of open source, how can you help us on application modernization journeys? And we kind of engage with these customers with discovery workshops, and with our partners we kind of go and provide a solution which allows customers to mimic what some of these disruptors that I called out. They be able to do the same thing, they be able to release more code, they be able to kind of experiment a lot, and they be able to basically if there is an idea, creating a prototype of that very very fast. And of course there are various other things in terms of the development model, the classical waterfall development model to the agile and scrum. I think that the value that comes along with it, I think those are the other benefits that kind of the open source and those things kind of help, and that's where we kind of play a very pivotal role in helping the customers.
So I don't know, you both have explained it very well, how open source is touching each and every life, bringing innovations and improving, from health to entertainment, everything. Mr. Basin, you already spoke about, open source and its relevance in the financial world. Do you like to highlight its role with respect to automation? Do you think it has a potential scope in that regard?
See, yes, definitely. In the various, AI, ML, and frameworks which are based on open source, which are currently in, operations in terms of building a, operational robot for certain key business processes or certain IT operation processes. Uh, so definitely, the open source is, playing the role in these areas as well. There are, be it as a, our conversational bots, or be it as a, various kinds of, the way we are like right now interacting. So there are some bots who can converse with you for a long time. You would have seen like a, on our very own Siri, in our Apple devices. So you would have heard in some of the newspapers and all that parents are moving away their kids, that during this pandemic time, kids got so hooked up to the voice bots and all, interacting with them. So all these, every, is a science, just like we say, it has a, a lot of positives and a lot of pros and cons of everything. So kids got hooked up, to their devices, and they don't need right now their friends or so. But for a healthy life, you need a good balance of both. So there is a, what actually, the point which I'm driving here is, all these applications which are, uh, which we used to think that they are the sci-fi word of sci-fi, or they are the word of, very far distant future. They are made available only through the, these open source frameworks, and these are further spreading in terms of, when you look at the current skill set needs of the technology workforce. uh, it requires a sea change in the knowledge. Earlier days, if you people used to know that, okay, from one programming language to other programming language, jumping, from one framework to other framework, only within those, kind of the way you need to code or program your business problems. But now there is a sea change in the technology, and people have to upgrade themselves really to be successful in the technology area. And that is where again this, open source culture comes into play very very big manner, because where now you can self educate yourself uh, with so much of open source material being available across the digital channels, and you can get your skills upgraded only, to the new generation technologies in a self-paced way as well, which was not earlier days possible. So open source is, in terms of someone traditional programmers getting migrated to the data sciences areas, getting upgraded themselves to AI ML and advanced analytics and robotics areas. So this would not have been possible had there been a disruption created by the open source, definitely. So the open source have been a major contributor in the all phases or all parts of the lives of the, us. So there have been a huge advantages in terms of developing some of the commonsensical applications which you may not require a huge amount of the infrastructure, and that open source has only made that possible. And a lot of times the innovation it brings, like you have been leveraging very large enterprise softwares for multi-year on but those, if you want to go for now distinctive features, so those you may get in the open source. However, for the large enterprises, they always look for the stability, risk awareness, and so there is a fine balance, I think, at the same time needs to be done by building the skill set, supporting and managing these frameworks across the organization.
Yes, absolutely. So something that has a name, which is open source. So
Yes.
it suggests that it is open to opportunities and innovations. And about the age thing, is from an elderly person to a young kid. I can associate it with the kid part since I'm a mother of a toddler. So I see the chatbot part every day at my
Yes.
place. So, Mr. Mangesh, when we talk about potential, Mr. Basin has added some significant points here from industry. And what do you like to add? What do you want to say
Sure.
about the potential?
So I think Mr. Basin touched on a very important point, that is, people, process, uh, technology, but culture. Culture is something that he brought about, and I think that's what differentiates probably the source world from the uh, erstwhile proprietary or conventional world that we can call about. See, purely from automation point of view, I think there is lots that open source and OpenShift can offer. Okay, so basically, let's take example that Nirav Modi fraud. Like, if you had to kind of you had automated systems, and it had been integrated, and you could kind of manage workflows, and you could write decision rules in between, probably you could have avoided that, right? So that now over there, there are so many libraries available in open source, which can kind of do a OCR reading, quickly does a OCR reading, and it can basis that fire up a rules engine and various other things. So it's possible in terms of bringing in that innovation, which Mr. Basin was also calling out, that there's a lot of AIML libraries and so many things that is available that you can quickly leverage and build it on open source. And Red Hat OpenShift is a platform which can kind of be a platform which enterprises can look at to kind of get that stability which enterprises need in terms of hey, curated software, be able to have the indemnification, the issues when there are legal issues, they be able to solve those issues, and there be a supported software, so that OpenShift provides. And I mean, it depends what we define as automation. See, for us, I'll take another example of automation which is more on the IT side. um, See, on the IT side, there are like thousands and millions of devices that are proliferating. I have multiple customers in the country who are using one product of ours called Ansible to automate their devices. And I've seen that people who kind of started with automation automation using Ansible, they started with 1,000 nodes, quickly jumped on to 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 10,000. I have multiple such customers in the country who are kind of using that kind of scale, getting it automated. Now, what is it doing? It simple things. It could be hey, making the infrastructure available for the developers. Earlier, in conventional way, if it was taking 4 days, 5 days, 6 days, or sometimes more, or 13 hours, you bring it down to probably a minute or two, or making a pass available, or basically maybe creating a release cycle wherein I need to kind of have this kind of rollout for application I need. So that particular, I'll just talk about that open source product of ours, Ansible. It has close to at minimum of 2 lakh downloads per month. Okay. It has somewhere around 4K 4K libraries, in the sense, basically the uh, you know the play, we call it as playbooks. It's simple English that kind of defines, okay, what is the activity that I want to do. I want to patch a server, I want to do a network allocation or whatever. So again, the beauty of it is all these playbooks are available on the open source, on the open source whatever hubs which are there, like GitHub, or our own open source collections. Now over there, what happens is, if I as a company find out that hey, this is a solution to this problem, and I give it to the maintainer of this code, like whosoever is maintaining this Ansible code. In this case, when it comes to Red Hat Ansible, it is us. We look at it and we say, hey, this is really useful for many other customers. So I'll pull it into my project, bake it, make it enterprise adaptable, and pass it on to the larger community. And on top of that, companies like us, we would kind of take care of all the acceleration that is to be done, all the collaboration that is to be done, all the governance that is to be done, all those things. So again, to answer your question, automation, be it on the business side, business process side, be it on the infra or IT side, open source can play a major role out over there. And be it like app scaling and giving a platform, probably OpenShift comes in picture, and it kind of helps you scale the application across multiple clouds. So you are looking at automation of application scalability, and you're looking at, or you're looking at automation in terms of being able to manage multiple clusters across multiple cloud. So depending on the scope, these are the areas where we are finding that our customers are adopting automation at a big scale.
Right. So thank you for underlining and bringing that insightful point to us. Moving on to Mr. Basin, you have been associated with one of the leading organization, and then you are still associated with a very big name in the industry. You yourself are a veteran. So this question is about legacy system. How do you think maintaining legacy systems and setting up new deployments challenging? How challenging is it to strike a balance in the current scenario? And to add on, in this regard, how do you think collaborative approach is going to help you with the same? Striking a balance in between the legacy and the modern systems, and then bringing collaborative approach into it.
Yeah. So, Rashi, definitely for modernization of the applications, as we just discussed, that, there are some tools and frameworks which are, migrating those procedural applications which have been developed over a period of time to time, whatever the technology and frameworks were available, uh, to the latest cloud native technologies. Uh, there have been, we have been working on a very large mandate for all our post-trade customer facing applications to be migrated from the legacy architectures to the modern architecture using some of the tool sets. Which will basically develop the uh, modern applications from day one, being cloud native and being responsive applications, device and form factor neutral, and be a end-to-end real-time event driven, as well as uh, or not just using the lines are getting blurred between the infrastructure and the applications, where infrastructure is now, as we were just touching upon earlier, more as a code. So using Ansible, framework, Ansible Tower, people are we are looking at when these infrastructure or these applications are getting up, kind of a migrated or re-engineered to the cloud native technologies. The infrastructure is also along with them is supporting their scalable model, that where on-demand scalability is being supported, fault tolerance is supported. But a lot of various other compliances, be it say secure, IT security patches, or ensuring the various upgrades which keep on happening for the environments, as well as the application upgrades. They are going through, starting from Ansible to, fully automated end-to-end CI/CD pipelines and infrastructure, and the softwares, complete verification, real-time online, for the IT compliance, security, information security compliance, are also getting done in a fully automated manner using tools, using these automation tools. This is this have been my journey in the current organization. We are working on a massive way to convert all the legacy applications to the modern architecture, as well as migrating the from the legacy or older generation infrastructure architecture to the infrastructure as a code. So these have been the key themes.
Mhm. Thank you, sir, for highlighting that part and telling us, explaining us how the legacy system at PSC you're handling it with the help of technology. So, moving on, I would like to
Rashi,
know.
I have a break actually. See, I have to quickly go for another meeting. There is a lot of reminders are coming. I have to
All
jump
right.
onto a meeting actually. I think I have to take a stop now actually. Right
I'll
now.
just take 1 minute, sir. We have an appreciation certificate for you. We'll give it away and then we will conclude it here. Pratishta, can we have the certificate from Mr. Bhasin on screen, please?
Sure, ma'am. Thank you so much, speakers, for sharing such great views. Now, as a token of appreciation, we would like to present the appreciation certificate to Mr. Shiv Kumar Bhasin, Group Chief Technology Officer and Operation Officer, National Stock Exchange of India. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today.
Thank you,
Also,
Pratishtha. Thank you, Rashi, and thank you, Mangesh. Nice meeting with you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your
thank,
valuable inputs and
Thank
time.
you.
thank,
Thank you. Thank
thank
you
you,
very
Mr.
much.
Mangesh Surve, Director Solution Specialist, Emerging Technology, Red Hat India NSA. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. Thank you so much.
Pratishtha, I would like to conclude it with Mr. Mangesh, and then we can help Mr. Bhasin exit the scene. So
Sure.
thank you, Mr. Bhasin. Thanks a lot for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
Thank you very much. Thank you to both
Thank
of you.
you. Bye bye.
Have a great day. Thank you. So, we have one more question to conclude the conversation today. Mr. Mangesh, Mr. Basin was speaking about the legacy systems and new deployments. I would like to know from you that what is the ecosystem in the open source world to drive and sustain new digital transformation requirements on application development and operations? And in your view, how do you see collaborative approach as a key to succeed in this scenario that we are in?
Sure. So I'll kind of merge both the questions, even the earlier one that you asked to Mr. Basin. I just wanted to call out few things which are very important. A is that he very rightfully called out that the lines between the infrastructure and the application are blurring, and I think that's where one way could be for the legacy application you could look at automation. Okay, and he rightly called out Red Hat Ansible Tower is something that he's using, and that basically helps accelerate and take away some of the pains which are there with, say, a conventional system. And time has changed and you have to match with the cloud native world, right? So that's one approach. but that's not the only approach. It's kind of, still you're living with the same problem. The the other approach is, you would need to kind of, look at app modernization. Now, whether the app modernization is worth modernizing, worth refactoring, or worth replacing, is a call that, every organization takes basis, the technical debt that is accrued in that particular that particular application which is in question. So from that point of view, presumption, app modernization is the way forward, and that's where, Red Hat comes into picture. We basically would help do a discovery in terms of, hey, what could be the best approach to kind of, take this journey forward. In that journey, we take care of about the people, process, technology, and most importantly the culture, and also, the minimum viable project or product that you want to kind of, immediately kind of, get on to kind of, see, experiment. That's where we kind of, help with our, innovation labs. Also, if you move forward, making that thing, run. Okay, today, do you want to run it on your premise? Do you want to run it on a cloud hyperscaler? Or, do you want not to get into a lock-in, which kind of, you might have been kind of, being troubled for a very long period of time, decades of issues that you might have had with a vendor lock-in. In all those cases, again, Red Hat OpenShift comes into picture, and you could kind of, choose whatever deployment model you want. You want to go on cloud, go on cloud. You want to come back from cloud onto premise because there are some issues over there. That's where we help. Now, once you kind of, get onto that, how do you kind of, manage that part also, multiple clusters? Again, the automation part comes into picture. Now, the addition to this is, again, everything with a definite business outcome, in terms of, okay, what is the ROI you're looking at, what is the, TCO that you're looking at, and, what's the implication of a code, being created faster. You might spend, $10 more on a developer, but, if you're reducing the, time to develop that from, say, a year to a week, do the calculation, right? Instead of 12, $1,300, just a discussion, you're spending just, maybe $120, $130. So look at the savings that you would get. So that's where, we kind of, play a very important role in helping the customer on the journey. We, crawl, walk, run with the customer on these journeys. And on the collaboration part, I'll just sum it up very fast. On collaboration part, see, open source is all about collaboration. Like I called out, there is a project. Okay, and for that project, if I am passionate about it, like, if the project is on geospatial and I'm a geospatial expert, you know I am passionate about it and I contribute, and the, owner of the project sees that this particular person is giving me that subscription, I'll pull that into my project and I'll make it available to the entire world. So that intelligence, someone who is good at designing a UI, probably a artist might be better in designing a UI than probably, someone who's just done a ergonomics course on UI, to kind of, visually appeal, whatever, customers or the usage, or make it user friendly, whatever. So again, those kind of people can come in. So whatever journeys you are onto, the customer is, the enterprise customer of ours is wanting to kind of, do a customer acquisition. Is wanting to, go fast into the market with a product. He or she is wanting to kind of, build something which is very, affordable, cost savings. So it depends. Standardization, sustainability. Today, if you embark onto open source, I would say open source is far more, resilient. It has far more availability options. It has far more security options. So, that RAS part of it, if that has to be included, that's where we kind of, that's where kind of, our ecosystem comes into play. And just one final word, probably the nation's biggest projects are running on open source. I don't know if if anyone have observed, the tax filing this year is different from tax filing that was being done earlier. That entire thing one runs on open source, and it runs on OpenShift plus our ecosystem. So not all products are ours, but it's a OpenShift, Red Hat OpenShift platform, and the entire ecosystem, the financial consolidation in the Ministry of Finance, financial intelligence unit, that entirely runs on open source. So if something of that scale can work on open source and on OpenShift, enterprises for sure we can support.
Wonderfully summarized. I don't know, as in it has connected so much, and I think our viewers must be, they must be very happy with this conversation that we spoke about at length. The age groups it is connecting, the amount of savings it is helping us to do, because technology deployment generally we related with cost, and then spoke about cost efficiency. You spoke about it has a bandwidth to handle something where income tax is associated, so it can go beyond that. So thank you, Mr. Safi, for joining us today for this conversation. And we had Mr. Bhasin with us during this fireside chat. He just left. So it was really insightful, and it's our pleasure to be able to host you to this conversation. Now, as a token of appreciation, we would like to hand over your certificate to you. Pratishtha, can you do the honors, please?
Sure, ma'am. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for joining us,
Thank you.
and thank you for your insightful views, sir.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
So, thank you so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you so much, ma'am.
To our viewers, we are moving ahead to the next discussion of the day. From here, I am taking a leave. Thank you so much for joining us today at the Fireside Chat. Take care. Hand over to you, Miss Pratishtha Nagar.